So, I actually was defending Charlie Kirk. You know, I thought he was just a guy who was dismantling college kids and these lame ass liberals that, you know, have these crazy ideologies, and he just dismantled most of them every time. The only debate that I saw him lost was the guy who was talking about how 9/11 actually happened. I really truly believe he lost that debate. But word on the street, I was informed that Charlie Kirk might actually have been a racist. Let's just get to the bottom of this. Here we go, and up and you already know.
They shank. I live as a capitalist. Okay, I live what I believe. No. What do? I get charity every single year. Hold on. What's my salary? Less than his.
Charlie, take a seat.
Come on, Shank, let's go.
Charlie,
what are you doing?
Take a seat. Take a seat.
Psycho?
To being known by basically every single teenager in America with a TikTok account.
A fetus is in utero.
What does fetus mean in Latin?
See, this is what I knew Charlie for this shit. Motherfuckers saying that, like, like an embryo is not a human, and just, defending their rights of abortion, and you know what I'm saying, and then 99 genders and what's a woman. This is what I do Charlie Kirk for, not the racism allegations. But let's continue.
What the? I'm sorry. Is this
It means little human being.
Damn,
He
they
even
did
does
him
the
dirt
thing
with
that
that
Ben
one.
Shapiro does, where he debates random college students.
So you're comparing abortion to the Holocaust?
Absolutely, I am. In fact, it's worse. It's worse.
He went to my college last year, where I debated him and won. How do I know this? I didn't get clipped. Now, over the past few weeks, Charlie's been going on racist tirades online over Muslims in the United States. Actually, Islamophobia isn't racism.
So the Texas legislator is passing a bunch of resolutions officially recognizing Muslim religious days, as well as creating an Islamophobia awareness day. Holy crap, that's crazy, bro. Texas GOP legislator needs to get a grip and stop this stuff cold. Stop the Islamification of Texas. Oh, wow. Okay. What Western city has gotten better with more Muslim immigration? Is London better? Is Amsterdam better? Is Paris better? Is New York City better? Oh, wait. Islam is not compatible with Western civilization. The conservative movement needs to focus more time, energy, and focus on how Islam is rapidly taking over the West. Well, maybe have you ever thought why Islam may be taking over the West? Maybe because, Christianity can be a little cap. Maybe. Just maybe. Maybe people are waking up, and maybe this is all people knew over here, and it's spreading from the east to the west. Maybe the real truth is spreading around the world. I don't know. That's just a possibility.
It is, though. People who look vaguely Arab or brown get profiled as Muslims all the time. Sikhs get hate crimed because people think that they're Muslims because they're brown, wear turbans, and have beards. Charlie literally did this himself on Twitter when he mistook the mayor of Calgary for being Muslim when she was Sikh because she was brown. So yeah, there is absolutely a racial component. But even if he wasn't racist and just Islamophobic, Islamophobia is still bigotry. So how is Charlie Kirk Islamophobic? That's what we'll be finding out on today's episode of Progressive Primers. First, take a look at his commentary about New York City mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani. Mamdani, who is a self-described democratic socialist, surprised even progressives when he not only won the New York mayoral Democratic primary, but won it by 12 points. Mamdani is also incredibly based, so naturally Charlie Kirk would have a problem with him. Although the way he criticized him was interesting. He tweeted, "New York City is likely to elect a Muslim socialist as mayor. This is quickly becoming one of the biggest threats to our country. Pay attention." Interesting that Charlie thought it was important to highlight that he was Muslim. He could have just called him a socialist and his audience would have already had a reason to dislike him. Can you imagine if Kirk called someone a black socialist? How about a Jewish socialist? He would have been cancelled even by the right. After Mamdani won the primary, Charlie tweeted this: 24 years ago, a group of Muslims killed 2,753 people on 9/11.
Actually, it was what I believe, and this kind of ties back to what I was saying at the beginning of the video. I believe with that guy that won the debate against Charlie over this topic, I believe it was actually the Jewish elites that, plan this, as well as George Bush. And there was obviously a controlled demolition. Like, buildings aren't going to fall just straight down. You know what I'm saying? But we're not going to get too much into that. Plus, I'm not an expert on that topic. I'm not going to pretend to be. But that story makes a lot more sense than, some Muslims hijacking a plane and flying into a building. And only one building should have fell, right?
Now a Muslim socialist is on pace to run New York City. Now, obviously, this is an absurdly Islamophobic thing to say. Zohran Mamdani is not a terrorist or even remotely has the same worldview as Al-Qaeda. And this tweet got a lot of pushback. Jessica Tarlov, the liberal panelist of Fox News' The Five, tweeted this in response. "Charlie, this is so gross and Islamophobic. Take it down." Charlie responded, "Debate me on the merits. Don't just throw out petty thought-terminating cliches. This isn't 2015. That doesn't work anymore. What Muslim country do you prefer to live in, Jessica? What Western city or country has improved as the Muslim population has increased? America's largest city was attacked by radical Islam 24 years ago, and now a similar form of that pernicious force is poised to capture City Hall. Be courageous enough as a liberal to call it out. I know deep down you are worried about what he will do. You were just too afraid to say it." Jessica responded, "I'm not afraid to say that I don't think Mamdani's vision for the city is a good one. And I think a lot of his policies are crazy. New York City is the home of capitalism, not socialism. I want more police funding, not to defund. BDS is repellent. We can't freeze rent, make everything free, but none of that has to do with him being Muslim." Charlie responded, "So the guy that's about to be NYC's next mayor wants to boycott and sanction Israel. First ever major candidate to say so. But that has totally nothing at all to do with him being Muslim? You know it does. You are just terrified about the social cost of saying it publicly. It's okay, I'll do it for you." Jessica then finished with, "Have you seen all the white Christian and Jewish hipsters from Brooklyn that support BDS? It's not that he's Muslim. It's that he's wrong." Okay, so a lot to unpack there. First off, Jessica, we can't freeze the rent? What do you mean we can't freeze the rent? New York City has froze the rent a bunch of times within the last 10 years. They literally have a board that is dedicated to freezing the rent. It's not about can we do it, it's about if we should do it. Also, make everything free? Yeah, like free at the point of service, not literally make everything free. Zohran has literally gone line by line and explained how he's gonna pay for everything, but whatever. It seems that Charlie thinks that Zohran's ideology is in, quote, similar form to Al-Qaeda, which is absurd. Zohran Mamdani is one of the most progressive politicians in the country. No person who says that they're for queer liberation is a radical Islamic fundamentalist. You're just being racist. And again, there is a racial component. If Zohran was a white Muslim, the attacks wouldn't be nearly as vile. Charlie also implies that Muslim immigration is ruining America's cities? How? He provides no evidence, so I did some digging. A few weeks ago, he tweeted out this. "This is New York. We are being conquered and they are rubbing it in our face. Islam is steadily enveloping the West." Then there's a video.
See, I didn't know this side of Charlie, bro. I wasn't tapped in. I guess I live under a rock. Actually, I do live under a rock. It's not like to be involved with all this BS, especially politics, but here's the thing. I'm not the best one, but me personally, I am Muslim because, in my opinion, based off of literally going crazy comparing all the religions, Islam makes the most sense personally for me. Okay? I believe there's only one God. I do not believe Jesus was God. And Jesus never once had a verse in the Bible where he said, "Worship me." He always pointed to his Father in heaven. Okay?
Of a TikTok that shows Shia Muslims celebrating Ashura in New York. The TikTok adds intimidating music to scare the viewer. But then the music stops playing. Wow. So scary. Look at all those brown people, Muslims, dressed in black, casually walking the streets of New York and holding up a banner. So scary. Look at that guy. Look, that guy's drinking. He's drinking something. What is he drinking? That could be a threat. This is definitely enveloping the West. It's hilarious to think that this is scary. It looks no different from Chinese New Yorkers celebrating Chinese New Year in public, or Irish New Yorkers celebrating St. Patrick's Day, or Jewish New Yorkers celebrating Yom Kippur. To say that this one is somehow uniquely scary above all others is Islamophobia. And Muslim immigration isn't ruining America's cities. Strict zoning policies and NIMBYism are ruining America's cities by artificially restricting the housing supply and making them unaffordable places to live. New York City, like America in general, is a melting pot that has had waves of immigrants come from all different parts of the world, and it's made America better. But for some reason, Charlie thinks Islam and...
That's what America is. That's the whole point of America. The land of opportunity, where everyone flees and comes here. And a lot of people will be like, yeah, America is such a terrible country. But, like, this is the only country, and I agree with Charlie on this, where, like, you know, people talk a bunch of crap, but they never go anywhere else. You know what I'm saying?
Muslims are uniquely incompatible with the West. Why is this? What are Charlie Kirk's problems with Islam?
For anyone that has eyes to see and ears to hear and actually reads the Hadith and reads parts of the Quran, you know that conquest is an Islamic value. Islam has conquest values. They seek to take over land and territory.
Yes, because Christians
didn't conquest and take African slaves and convert their religions and would kill them if they didn't convert to their religions. Like, come on, man. Like, come on.
Countries definitely do not have a history of conquest. Absolutely no Christian majority society has ever done conquest in the name of God. But Hadi, these aren't recent examples. I mean, Islam wants to conquer the West in the modern day. So true. So let's look at the modern day. Since World War II, Afghanistan has invaded 0 countries. Algeria has invaded 0 countries. Bangladesh has invaded 0 countries. Egypt, 2. Iran, 0. Iraq, 3. Jordan, 1. Lebanon, 1. Malaysia, 0.
And notice how the ones that did invade countries was like, you know, countries that were pretty near them, like, you know, in the same region or whatnot. It's not like they were trying to invade the West. So let's continue to roll this beautiful bean footage, shall we?
Morocco, 0. Oman, 0. Pakistan, 1. Saudi Arabia, 1. Somalia, 1. Syria, 3. Tunisia, 0. Turkey, 1. Yemen, 1. Meanwhile, the peaceful West with the United States has only invaded 8 countries. And if that number seems low, keep in mind that I'm using a very strict definition of the word invasion. This list doesn't even include Korea, Vietnam, Syria, or the Dominican Republic, which, while technically not invasions, were offensive conflicts with American boots on the ground. But no, it's definitely Islam that's rapidly taking over the West.
Europe is now a conquered continent. It is not what it used to be. It's a husk of its former self, which is increasingly Mohammedan.
So true. I mean, look at this map of Iranian military bases in Europe. Oh wait, sorry, no, this is a map of US military bases in the Middle East. But Hadi, these wars weren't caused by religion. Really? During the Cold War, American...
no blood, no, and this is why I don't really like religion, to be honest. There's things I disagree with in Islam, for sure. There's things I disagree with in every religion. I don't really like the institution of religion. I really believe it was just... It's like a man-made thing that was really instituted to, you know, have control over the populace. And the thing is that no blood has been shed more than religion, and no money has been taken more from people than religion. You know, so.
Propaganda played up the narrative that the struggle between capitalism and communism was also a struggle between the Christian West and the atheist Eastern Bloc. Or how about when General William Boykin gave a speech recounting his confrontation with the Muslim warlord in Somalia in the 90s and saying that he won because, quote, my God was bigger? Or how about when George Bush referred to the war on terror as a crusade?
This crusade, this war on terrorism, is going to take a while.
Or how about when George Bush said that he invaded Iraq because God told him to?
In the Islamic texts, they spend so much time about people who do not share their values. There are like direct calls in Islam of what to do for those that don't believe, and it's a very pernicious preoccupation.
This is true. The Quran does call for violence against non-believers. Like, look at Surah Al-Anfal, which says, "Remember, O Prophet, when your Lord revealed to the angels..."
And you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't agree with everything in Islam, bro. For real. But all in all, with all the fuckery with all the religions, to me it makes the most sense.
"I am with you, so make the believers stand firm. I will cast horror into the hearts of disbelievers, so strike their necks and strike their fingertips." Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 191, says this about non-believers: "Kill them wherever you come upon them, and drive them out of the places from which they have driven you out, for persecution is far worse than killing. And do not fight them at the sacred mosque unless they attack you there. If they do so, then fight them. That is the reward of the disbelievers." And of course, most infamously, Surah Al-Janeen, verse 37, which states, "If a man or woman living among you in one of the towns Allah gives you is found doing evil in the eyes of Allah in violation of his covenant, and contrary to my command has worshipped other gods, bowing to them or to the sun or to the moons or the stars in the sky, and this has been brought to your attention, then you must investigate it thoroughly. If it is true, and it has been proved that this detestable thing has been done in Arabia, take that man or woman who has done this evil deed to your city gate and stone that person to death." Horrible stuff. Except that last quote was actually from Deuteronomy, chapter 17, verses 2 to 5. Instead of Allah, it says the Lord, and instead of Arabia, it says Israel. Then, of course, there's 2 Chronicles, chapters 15, verse 12, which states, "And they entered into the covenant to seek the Lord, the God of their fathers, with all their heart and with all their soul, but that whoever would not seek the Lord, the God of Israel, should be put to death, whether young or old, man or woman." It seems that both the Bible and the Quran have called for violence against and the murder of non-believers. But Charlie downplays calls for violence in the Bible.
Christianity spends a fair amount of time on it, but nowhere near Islam, though.
But plays up calls for violence in the Quran. In May, while in England, Charlie Kirk went on the conservative GB News and talked about the decline of Christianity in the West. And he said some crazy things.
Can a civilization continue when it cuts off what gave it life? Probably not. And that's what modernity is flirting with right now. And so then you get all these counterfeit religions. You get environmentalism. Why do you guys think you guys are doing this insane net neutral carbon stuff by 2050?
Net zero, yeah.
So you get rid of Christianity and then you get a substitute form of earth worship.
Yes, because caring about the habitability of the planet we all live on is earth worship. I care about having a house, Charlie, but that doesn't mean I'm praying to Bob the Builder.
You get rid of Christianity and then you get a substitute form of anti-racism.
Okay, anti-racism is obviously not a religion. I don't know why Charlie would say such an idiotic thing.
You get rid of Christianity and then, even more dangerous, you go from secularism then to Islam. Because then you're like, well, we have to believe in something, and then you bring in a completely different ideology that's at odds with Western values.
Charlie, people watching this now would say...
So you're saying Islam is worse than secularism, bro? Have you lost your mother trucking mind? Come on, bro.
Islamists who are the issue. Islam as a religion is peaceful by nature, so on and so on. What's your response to that?
I know a lot of great individual Muslims. My primary doctor in America is actually a Muslim, and he's amazing. That's not the point. You can walk the street and meet a great Muslim in London. The question is macro Islam compatible with Western values? Macro. Of course it's not. There are three major reasons why. Islam does not believe in freedom of speech. Islam does not believe in freedom of religion. And Islam does not believe in separation of mosque and state. Those three things are antithetical to the West.
Let's break these down one by one.
Islam does not believe in freedom of speech.
Well, while the Quran doesn't have a blanket verse either promoting or condemning free speech, neither does the Bible. Sure, the Quran says that lying is a sin and gossiping is a sin, but these are both sins in the Bible as well. So are you saying that the Bible is against Western values? Sure, many Muslim countries don't have freedom of speech, but that's not because of religion. It's because they have authoritarian governments that punish dissenters. That's politics, not religion.
Islam does not believe in freedom of religion.
Well, this point plays into one of Charlie Kirk's arguments as to why Palestinians shouldn't have a state. That Islam is a barbaric religion that can't tolerate others. In fact, a lot of his Islamic arguments seem to center around one thing: Israel.
Can you show me an example
of Jews living peacefully under Islamic rule?
I can. The Fatimid Caliphate, which was generally religiously tolerant of Christians and Jews. There's also Al-Andalus, Muslim-ruled Spain, which was very tolerant of Jews. In fact, Al-Andalus became a hub for Jewish intellectuals, and many historians say that a golden age of Jewish culture in Spain took place under Muslim rule. The Ottoman Empire was also very tolerant of Jews during most of its history, in many cases way more tolerant than Europe. There's a lot more examples. In many Muslim societies throughout history, Jews were considered dhimmis, non-believers who were given special protection and tolerance in exchange for paying a tax. Jews have lived peacefully in many Muslim nations for thousands of years. It was really only until Muslim countries declined and faced hardships when Jews started to get scapegoated. But blaming minorities for social ills is very common in every society. Charlie Kirk is doing it right now. Anti-Semitism isn't just a Muslim problem. It's a human problem. Now, of course, the Quran doesn't actually believe in a true freedom of religion, but neither does any religion. Pretty much every major religion thinks
thinks that that's the only way and all that stuff, which I think is bullshit. Yeah, man, I might identify as Muslim, but I think all the religions are just trying to find God, and you're kind of a fool if you really believe and you really think that like your specific religion is the only way. Because every religion says that.
The correct religion, and that believing in others is heresy. So far, all of Charlie Kirk's arguments as to why Islam is incompatible to the West also apply to Christianity or any other religion. But finally, Charlie Kirk says Islam is against the separation of church and state.
And Islam does not believe in separation of mosque and state.
Okay, but Charlie, you don't believe in separation of church and state either. Charlie Kirk used to straight up say that he doesn't believe in the separation between church and state.
Again, there is no separation of church and state. It's a fabrication. It's a fiction. It's not in the Constitution. It's made up by secular humanists. It's derived from a single letter that Thomas Jefferson wrote to the Danbury Baptist Convention. Of course, we should have church and state mixed together. Our founding fathers believed in that. We can go through the details of that. They established literally a church in Congress. Anyway, separate issue.
Okay, so first of all, while the Constitution doesn't explicitly say there shall be a wall of separation between church and state, it basically all but does, because it does say Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. Congress can't establish religion? Seems like separation of church and state to me. And also, just because Congress may have a church inside of it where individual politicians can go and worship, doesn't mean that the U.S. government and U.S. law is religious. Politicians can have their own religion, but government can still be secular. His point doesn't prove anything. Again, Charlie Kirk used to explicitly say separation of church and state isn't a real thing, but now he's more weaselly about it. He says stuff like, well, it depends on what you mean by separation of church and state. Do you believe that there should be a separation of morality in state? No. And where do we get morality from? The Bible.
Okay. More importantly, let's forget church and state. Okay. Can we both agree there's no separation between morality and state?
I agree.
Okay.
It's just lawmaking.
That's cool. That's where I really live in. What I'm saying, though, is the church should influence that morality. That's what I mean by that. Because at some point, people are going to have to make a decision of what is good and what is bad, what is permissible and not permissible. And I think the church or Christianity should inform those decisions.
Okay, but then the Quran is also a moral guide. Christians and Jews have the Ten Commandments. Muslims have Surah Al-Isra, which, among other things, bans murder, adultery, arrogance, tells people to honor their parents, the poor, and the stranger. Most religions have moral codes, Charlie. Why are you pretending that Christianity is the only one, or the only one that says good things, like murder is bad? So to recap, Charlie Kirk doesn't like Islam and Muslims. Why? Because they have a culture of conquest, even though Christian countries have had the largest empires in the world. Because they kill non-believers, even though the vast majority of Muslims and Christians are peaceful people, and even though the Bible also says to kill non-believers. Because they're against the freedom of speech. Not really. The Quran doesn't say much about the subject at all. Islam isn't against the freedom of speech. Dictators and authoritarians are against the freedom of speech.
Alright. Let's check these comments out. Alright, let's read this. As you all know by now, on September 10th, Charlie Kirk was murdered on a college campus in Utah. While I've always vehemently disagreed with Kirk and on 95% of issues, and while I stand by everything I said about him in this video, he didn't deserve to die. Nobody deserves to be murdered or physically harmed because of their words and beliefs. When I found out he was shot, I had the misfortune of seeing the video. It was the worst thing I've ever seen. I had to stop doing homework. I couldn't pay attention in class. It shook me to my core. It affected me a lot more than the Trump shooting. And not just because this time someone actually died. The President of the United States will always be a target. If the President actually gets shot, it's shocking and horrifying, but it usually means that the Secret Service just had a bad day. But when a political commentator and intellectual celebrity or who held no public office is buried in cold blood, something deeply is wrong with our country. With your country. My thoughts are with Charlie and his family. Cool. This is wild timing for this video to pop up. Well, as of September the 10th, 2025, Charlie Kirk is no longer a racist, average Pakistani child. That was definitely a hit piece. If you tell Charlie Christianity is a Middle Eastern religion, he'll freak out. Great time for this video to pop up everywhere because they're trying to rewrite history right now. In other words, water is wet and fire is hot. Dying does not make him right. That's something a lot of people forget. I don't think he's racist anymore. Charlie Kirk is racist, man. I would have never guessed. Charlie Kirk looks like his face was shrunk by 10% in the photo editor. Damn. I hate it when people act like someone was a good person just because they're dead now or died recently, one or the other way. And that was kind of me. Turns out he wasn't as good of a person as I thought. You will never believe what just happened. Just because someone died doesn't mean they weren't a horrible asshole. He lost the gun debate. Damn. Alright. Shit. Well, the smoking. I'm curious to see what you guys' comments are or see what you guys' thoughts are in the comments down below. Like, do you guys believe that Charlie Kirk was a racist? If so, don't just say it. Back it up with some evidence and arguments. I'll catch you on the flip.